I got the message at 9:12 p.m. I miss my sister. I'll stay with her for a couple of days. Sure, Aven. And I miss my abs from 2010. I set down my wrench and wiped my hands on the shop rag. The auto repair bay was quiet except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant rumble of traffic on Route 9. Varron's Automotive had been my sanctuary for 8 years. Grease under my fingernails, honest work, predictable problems with logical solutions. Unlike my marriage. The text glowed on my phone screen like a neon sign advertising lies. Aven hadn't mentioned visiting her sister Jenna all week. Hell, she barely tolerated Jenna most days, always complaining about her yoga studio's spiritual nonsense and her habit of borrowing money she never returned. I walked to the office and grabbed our shared tablet from the desk drawer. Aven insisted we share devices for transparency in our relationship. Funny how transparency worked only one way. The hotel app was still logged in under her email. My finger hovered over the screen before I tapped the icon. Reservation confirmed. The Riverside Inn downtown, room 237, paid with our joint credit card. Check-in today. Check-out 3 days from now. 2 guests. 2 guests. I stared at the screen until the numbers blurred. 10 years of marriage, and she thought I was stupid enough to believe this garbage. The woman who complained when I left dirty dishes in the sink had booked a hotel room for herself and a mystery companion, charged it to our account, and expected me to swallow her story about visiting her sister. My phone buzzed with another message. Love you. Don't wait up. I typed back immediately. Tell Jenna I said hi. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then nothing. She was probably scrambling to call Jenna and get their stories straight. Too bad for Aven. I was done playing the fool. The smart move would have been to call a lawyer, document everything, play by the rules. But smart moves were for people who hadn't spent 10 years watching their spouse grow more distant, more entitled, more convinced that her paralegal job at Morrison & Associates made her better than the guy who kept her car running. I locked up the shop and drove home to our split-level house on Maple Street. The neighborhood was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business, where Vivian Henderson next door could tell you what time the mailman arrived and which houses had their lights on past midnight. Inside, I opened the tablet again and studied the hotel reservation. The confirmation email included details Aven probably didn't know I could see. Room amenities, king bed, minibar, late checkout available. Special requests, extra towels, champagne service for a sister visit. I screenshot everything and uploaded the files to our shared cloud storage. Then I opened the banking app and reviewed our recent transactions. Dinner at Romano's last Tuesday. $48 for 2 people. I'd been working late that night, fixing Mrs. Patterson's transmission. Aven said she'd grabbed a sandwich at home. Thursday, charges at Nordstrom, Victoria's Secret, a salon downtown. Friday, more restaurant charges, this time at the steakhouse on 5th Street, the kind of place Aven claimed we couldn't afford when I suggested dinner there for our anniversary. My phone rang. Aven's contact photo filled the screen, her professional headshot from the law office website, all perfect teeth and calculated confidence. Hey, babe, she said, her voice artificially bright. Just wanted to check in before bed. Having fun with Jenna? I kept my tone neutral, conversational. Oh, you know how she is, talking my ear off about her latest meditation retreat. We're probably going to watch a movie and catch up. In the background, I heard what sounded like elevator music, hotel lobby music. Sounds relaxing. You two always have so much to talk about. Definitely. Anyway, I should go. Jenna's waiting. Tell her I haven't seen her in a while. Maybe I'll stop by tomorrow and say hello. Silence stretched across the connection. When Aven spoke again, her voice had lost its artificial warmth. That's not necessary, Colby. We're having sister time. You understand? Of course. Sleep well. I ended the call and sat in our living room, surrounded by 10 years of shared purchases and compromised dreams. The couch we'd bought on credit when we first moved in. The coffee table I'd built myself because Aven wanted something custom but didn't want to pay custom prices. The wedding photos on the mantel, both of us younger and stupider and convinced we'd figured out something the divorced couples hadn't. At 10:47 p.m., I sent another message. I haven't seen her in a while either. I'll be there in 30 minutes. This time, the 3 dots appeared and disappeared for a full minute before my phone rang. Colby, what are you talking about? Just thought I'd surprise you both. Bring some of those cookies Jenna likes from the bakery downtown. No! The word came out sharp, panicked. I mean, we're already in bed. It's late, maybe another time. It's not even 11. Since when does Jenna go to bed before midnight? Another pause. She's not feeling well. That's actually why I came over. She might be contagious. Then you should probably come home. Wouldn't want you getting sick. Colby, please, just let us have our time together. I'll be home in a couple of days, like I said. I was already putting on my jacket. See you soon, babe. The drive to the Riverside Inn took exactly 23 minutes. I parked under the entrance camera where my license plate would be clearly visible, grabbed my phone, and walked into the lobby. The desk clerk, a kid who couldn't have been older than 20, glanced up from his computer. Can I help you? My wife forgot something in her room. Aven Varron, room 237. He checked his screen. I'll need to call up and confirm. That's fine. Take your time. I pulled out my phone and typed, in the lobby, coming up. Before the clerk could finish dialing, the elevator dinged. Aven stepped out, barefoot, wearing the hotel bathrobe, her hair disheveled and her face flushed with panic. Behind her, the elevator doors started to close, but I caught a glimpse of someone's arm reaching out to stop them. We stood there for a moment, 10 feet apart in the marble lobby, while the desk clerk pretended not to watch and soft jazz played from hidden speakers. Aven's mouth opened and closed like she was trying to remember her lines. Colby, I can explain. I'm sure you can. The elevator opened again, and Dean McCall stepped out. Dean, who owned the CrossFit gym where Aven had been getting in shape for the past 6 months. Dean, with his protein powder supplements and his motivational quotes, and his habit of posting shirtless selfies on social media. He was wearing jeans and a hastily buttoned shirt, his hair still messed up from whatever they'd been doing in room 237. Hey, man, Dean said like we'd bumped into each other at the grocery store. Didn't expect to see you here? Funny thing about expectations, I said. They're usually based on the assumption that people tell the truth. Aven stepped between us, her hands raised like she was directing traffic. This isn't what it looks like. Really? Because it looks like my wife is wearing a hotel bathrobe while standing next to her personal trainer at 11 o'clock at night. What should it look like? Dean shifted his weight, trying to decide if he should run or fight or talk his way out of this. I could see him calculating odds, measuring distances. He was younger than me, probably stronger, definitely more concerned about his image. But I'd spent 15 years in amateur boxing before I opened the shop, and some instincts never fade. Look, Colby, he started. This is between you and Aven. You should probably shut up and let me talk to my wife. Aven's panic was shifting into something else, anger, maybe, or just the realization that her story had collapsed. You followed me here. You're stalking me. I responded to your invitation. You said you were visiting your sister. I wanted to say hello. You're being ridiculous. I held out my hand. Room key. What? The key card. Hand it over. Colby, you can't just... I can and I will. The room is paid for with our joint credit card. That makes it as much mine as yours. She looked at Dean, who shrugged and stepped back toward the elevator. Apparently, chivalry was another casualty of modern fitness culture. Fine. She reached into the bathrobe pocket and slapped the plastic card into my palm. But this doesn't change anything. You're right, it doesn't. I walked past them to the elevator and rode up to the second floor. Room 237 was at the end of the hall, and the door was still propped open with the security latch. Inside, the evidence of their evening was scattered across the king-size bed and the floor. 2 wine glasses on the nightstand, one still half full. Aven's clothes draped over the chair by the window, a second toothbrush on the bathroom counter, an extra key card on the dresser. I photographed everything with my phone, methodically documenting each detail. The minibar receipt, showing 2 bottles of champagne and premium snacks. The room service menu with items circled in pen. The massage oil on the bedside table that definitely hadn't come from hotel housekeeping. When I returned to the lobby, Aven and Dean were gone. The desk clerk watched me approach with the nervous expression of someone who'd seen too much drama for one shift. "I need to see the access logs for room 237, I said. "Sir, I can't provide that information without—" "The room is registered under my wife's name and paid for with our joint account. I'm not asking for anyone else's information." He hesitated, then turned his computer screen so I could see it. The log showed 2 keycard entries, one at 7:23 p.m., another at 7:31 p.m. 2 separate cards, 8 minutes apart. I took a photo of the screen before he could change his mind. Back in my truck, I uploaded everything to our shared cloud storage and sent copies to my personal email account. Then I opened the banking app and started making changes. I transferred my direct deposit to a new account I'd opened 6 months ago when I first suspected something was wrong. I removed Aven's access to our joint checking and savings, leaving her with exactly what she'd contributed in the last year, about $300. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You're making a mistake. This doesn't have to get ugly." I typed back, "Too late for that." At home, I called the locksmith who'd installed our security system and arranged for a recce in the morning. Then I went online and ordered a storage unit, prepaid for 30 days, and scheduled a pickup service for Aven's belongings. By 2 a.m., I was sitting at our kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a legal pad, making lists. What I knew, what I could prove, what I needed to find out. Aven would fight back. She was too smart and too proud to just accept defeat. She'd try to control the narrative, make me the villain, rally our friends and family to her side. But she'd made one critical mistake. She'd underestimated the guy who kept her car running, who fixed her problems, who'd spent 10 years being taken for granted. She thought I was just another appliance in her life, useful, reliable, and easily replaced when something better came along. She was about to learn the difference between being underestimated and being stupid. The locksmith arrived at 8 a.m. sharp, a grizzled guy named Pete who'd been changing locks in this town since before I was born. He worked efficiently, replacing the cylinders in both the front and back doors, while I signed the paperwork and handed him cash. "Domestic situation?" he asked, not looking up from his work. "Something like that. Seen a lot of these lately. Economy's got people stressed, making bad choices." Pete finished the job and handed me the new keys. "Old locks won't work anymore. Hope that's what you wanted." That's exactly what I wanted. After he left, I called Morrison & Associates and asked for Aven's extension. The receptionist, a woman named Carol, who'd always been friendly when Aven dragged me to office parties, sounded surprised to hear from me. "Oh, hi, Colby. Aven's not in yet. She called in sick this morning. Should I have her call you?" "No message. Thanks, Carol." Sick. Right. Probably nursing a hangover and trying to figure out her next move. I spent the morning at the shop, working on Mrs. Chen's brake job and thinking through my options. Aven would come home eventually. She'd need clothes, documents, access to her things. She'd probably bring Dean or Jenna for moral support, maybe even threaten to call the police. I needed to be ready. At noon, Vivian Henderson appeared in the shop doorway like a harbinger of neighborhood gossip. Vivian was 73, widowed, and possessed of an almost supernatural ability to know everyone's business before they knew it themselves. "Colby, dear, I hope everything's all right. I saw the locksmith this morning." Just upgrading security, Mrs. Henderson. Can't be too careful these days. She nodded sagely. Very wise, especially with all the strange cars I've been seeing in the neighborhood lately. I looked up from the brake assembly. Strange cars? Oh yes. That flashy red Mustang has been parked on our street several times in the past month, usually when you're here at work. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. I didn't want to say anything, but I saw it in the driveway last Tuesday afternoon. Tuesday. The day Aven claimed she'd worked late and grabbed a sandwich at home. Did you happen to see who was driving it? A young man, very fit, lots of muscles. Not the type I'd expect Aven to know, if you don't mind me saying. Dean's Mustang, in my driveway, while I was fixing transmissions and trusting my wife. Thanks for letting me know, Mrs. Henderson. I appreciate you looking out for the neighborhood. Of course, dear. We have to stick together. After she left, I called the moving company and confirmed the pickup for 3 p.m. Then I drove home and started packing Aven's belongings. Not everything, just enough to make the point. Her expensive clothes, her jewelry, her collection of self-help books about finding your authentic self. I left the practical stuff, the everyday items she'd need to function. This wasn't about cruelty. It was about consequences. At 2:47 p.m., my phone rang. Aven's number. Colby, we need to talk. I'm listening. Not over the phone. I'm coming home. Your key won't work. Silence. Then, you changed the locks? I upgraded security. Mrs. Henderson's been seeing strange cars in the neighborhood. Can't be too careful. This is my house, too. You can't lock me out of my own home. Actually, I can. The deed is in my name. The mortgage payments come from my account. You're welcome to check with a lawyer if you want clarification. You're being petty and vindictive. I'm being practical. Your belongings will be in storage unit 47 at U Store It on Industrial Boulevard. The code is your birthday. First month's paid. You can't do this. I just did. Have a nice day, Aven. I hung up and watched through the front window as the moving truck pulled into the driveway. The crew worked quickly, loading boxes and suitcases, while Vivian Henderson observed from her porch with undisguised interest. 20 minutes later, Aven's Honda Civic turned onto Maple Street. She parked across from the house and sat in the car for a long moment, probably processing the sight of strangers carrying her possessions to a truck. Dean's Mustang pulled up behind her, and they both got out. I opened the front door before they reached the porch. Keys, I said, holding out my hand. Colby, please, can we just talk about this like adults? We tried that approach for 10 years. Didn't work out. Keys. Dean stepped forward, trying to look intimidating. Man, you need to calm down and listen to what she's trying to tell you. And you need to get off my property before I call the police and report you for trespassing. You can't just throw her out. She lives here. She lived here. Past tense. Now she's staying with her sister, remember? Or was that another lie? Aven fumbled in her purse and pulled out her house keys, her car keys, and the spare key to my shop. She dropped them in my palm without making eye contact. This isn't over, she said. You're right, it's just getting started. They left, but not before Dean made a show of writing down my license plate number and taking photos of the house, probably planning to file some kind of harassment complaint or restraining order. Let him try. I had documentation, witnesses, and a paper trail that would make any judge laugh him out of court. That evening, I drove to Hannigan's Bar on the south side of town. It was the kind of place where working guys went to drink beer and complain about their lives without judgment. The owner, Jerry Mullins, had been my sparring partner back in our boxing days, and his bar served as an unofficial support group for divorced men and anyone else life had beaten up. Heard you had some excitement today, Jerry said, sliding a beer across the bar. Vivian Henderson's been calling everyone she knows. Good news travels fast in this town. So does bad news. Word is your wife's been telling people you're dangerous, says you threatened her. I took a long drink and considered this. What kind of threats? The usual nonsense. Claims you're unstable, jealous, might hurt someone. She's been working the phones all afternoon trying to get people on her side. And? Jerry shrugged. Most folks know you better than that, but some are buying it. Your mother-in-law called my ex-wife asking if you'd ever been violent with me. What did she tell her? That you hit like a girl and couldn't hurt a fly even if you wanted to. I laughed, despite myself. Thanks for the character reference. Don't mention it. But seriously, Colby, you need to be careful. Woman scorned and all that. She's going to come at you hard. He was right. Aven was smart, connected, and desperate. She'd use every advantage she had, her job at the law firm, her network of friends, her ability to play the victim. She'd paint me as the controlling husband who couldn't handle his wife's independence. But she'd made the same mistake Dean had. She thought I was just another blue-collar guy who'd roll over when the pressure got too intense. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check your email. I opened my email app and found a message from a Gmail address I didn't recognize. The subject line read, Evidence of harassment. The email contained photos of me at the hotel, screenshots of my text messages, and a detailed account of how I'd stalked Aven and threatened Dean. It was well-written, persuasive, and completely one-sided. At the bottom was a note. This documentation has been forwarded to appropriate authorities. Further contact will result in legal action. I forwarded the email to my own lawyer, Tom Brennan, with a note. Thought you should see this. Call me tomorrow. Then I opened the shared cloud storage and uploaded the hotel photos, the access logs, the banking records, and everything else I'd documented. If Aven wanted to play the evidence game, I was ready to ante up. My phone rang. My mother's number. Colby, what's going on? Aven called me crying, saying you threw her out of the house. She's staying with her sister, Mom. She told me so herself. Don't be smart with me. She says you changed the locks and won't let her get her things. Her things are in storage. She has the access code. This isn't like you, honey. You're not vindictive. Maybe I'm learning. What's that supposed to mean? I told her about the hotel, the lies, the evidence. My mother listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Oh, Colby, I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, Mom. What are you going to do? Whatever it takes. After I hung up, I sat in my truck outside Hannigan's and watched the traffic pass on Route 9. Tomorrow, Aven would escalate. She'd file complaints, spread rumors, try to turn our mutual friends against me. She'd use her position at the law firm to intimidate me, maybe even get me arrested on false charges. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The pretense was over. The lies were exposed. Whatever came next, at least it would be honest. I started the truck and drove home to my empty house, where I could think clearly and plan my next move. Aven wanted a war? Fine. But she'd picked the wrong enemy. The police arrived at my shop Thursday morning while I was replacing the alternator on a 2018 Ford Explorer. Officer Janet Green stepped out of the patrol car with the measured confidence of someone who'd been dealing with domestic disputes for 20 years. Mr. Varron, I need to speak with you about a complaint we received. I wiped my hands on a shop rag and followed her outside. Green was professional but not unfriendly. We'd had a few interactions over the years, mostly traffic accidents and the occasional break-in report. What can I help you with, officer? Your wife filed a harassment complaint yesterday. Says you've been following her, threatening her boyfriend and interfering with her personal property. Did she mention that her boyfriend was in a hotel room paid for with our joint credit card? Green consulted her notepad. She says you stalked her to a location where she was staying and created a public disturbance. I responded to her text message about visiting her sister. When I offered to join them, she panicked and ran out of a hotel room wearing nothing but a bathrobe. Her trainer was with her. Her trainer, Dean McCall, owns CrossFit Revolution downtown, drives a red Mustang that's been parked in my driveway while I was at work. Green made notes. Do you have evidence of that? Photos, credit card records, hotel access logs, witness statements from neighbors. Want to see them? She studied me for a moment. Mr. Varron, I have to ask, have you threatened anyone or damaged any property? I changed the locks on my house and moved my wife's belongings to storage. Everything else is documented and legal. What about Mr. McCall? Any contact with him? He was at the hotel when I arrived. We exchanged maybe 10 words, all of them polite. Green closed her notepad. Here's the thing. Your wife seems genuinely scared. Says you've never been violent before, but she's worried about escalation. Officer, 3 days ago I thought I had a happy marriage. Now I find out my wife's been lying to me for months, charging hotel rooms to our joint account and bringing her boyfriend to our house while I'm at work. If I seem upset, it's because I am, but I haven't threatened anyone. Just keep it that way, and maybe avoid places where you know she'll be. This is a small town, Officer Green. We're going to run into each other. When you do, be smart about it. Don't give her ammunition. After she left, I called Tom Brennan. He listened to my account of the police visit and the harassment complaint, then gave me the advice I expected. Document everything. Avoid contact. Don't respond to provocation. She's trying to build a case that you're unstable. Don't help her. What about the evidence I have? Keep it safe, but don't use it unless you have to. Right now, you're in a good position. Don't screw it up by getting arrested. Good advice, but easier said than done. At lunch, I drove to the diner on Main Street and found Aven sitting in a corner booth with Jenna Morrison, the real sister, not the fictional one from her hotel story. They were deep in conversation, their heads bent over Aven's phone. I ordered coffee and a sandwich at the counter, deliberately sitting where they could see me. Aven noticed me immediately, her face flushing with anger or embarrassment. Jenna looked over and whispered something that made Aven shake her head vigorously. When my order arrived, I took it to a table across the room and ate slowly while reading news on my phone. I wasn't bothering them, wasn't even looking in their direction, but my presence was clearly making them uncomfortable. Jenna got up and walked over to my table. This is harassment, Colby. You're following her. I'm eating lunch at a public restaurant. Same as you. You know she's here. You came here on purpose. I come here twice a week, have for 3 years. Ask Linda behind the counter. Jenna glanced at the waitress, who nodded confirmation. He's a regular, Linda called out. Always gets the turkey club and coffee. This is still inappropriate, Jenna said, but her voice had lost its conviction. You're right. It's inappropriate for your sister to lie about visiting you while she's in a hotel with her trainer. But here we are. Jenna returned to their table, and a few minutes later, they left. But not before Aven made a show of taking photos of me with her phone, probably for her growing harassment file. That afternoon, Dean showed up at my shop. He parked his Mustang in front of the bay doors and walked in like he owned the place, all swagger and artificial confidence. We need to talk, man. About what? About you backing off and letting Aven move on with her life. I set down my wrench and faced him. Is that what she's doing? Moving on? Because from where I sit, it looks like she's been moving on for months without bothering to tell me. Look, what happened between us, it just happened. Nobody planned it. Right. Hotel reservations just make themselves. Credit card charges are acts of nature. Dean stepped closer, trying to use his size to intimidate me. He was maybe 3 inches taller and 30 pounds heavier, all of it muscle from his gym obsession. You need to accept reality. She doesn't want to be with you anymore. She wants to be with me. Then she should have said so before she started charging hotel rooms to our joint account. That's between you and her. I'm just trying to protect her from your crazy behavior. My crazy behavior? Like what? Like stalking her. Like throwing her out of her own house. like showing up everywhere she goes. I laughed, which seemed to surprise him. Dean, let me explain something to you. I own this shop, I own my house, and I own half of everything in our marriage. Aven owns her car, her clothes, and whatever money she's managed to save from her paralegal salary. If anyone's moving on, it's me. You can't just steal her life because you're pissed off. I'm not stealing anything. I'm protecting my assets from someone who's proven she can't be trusted. Dean's face darkened. You think you're so smart, don't you? Blue-collar guy showing up the fancy lawyer's wife. Aven's a paralegal, not a lawyer. And yeah, I think I'm smart enough to recognize when someone's lying to me. He leaned across the workbench, close enough that I could smell his protein shake breath. This isn't over. You're right about that. After he left, I called Tom Brennan again and reported the visit. He advised me to install security cameras at the shop and avoid any further contact with Dean or Aven. They're trying to provoke you into doing something stupid, he said. Don't give them the satisfaction. That evening, I drove to the electronics store and bought a basic security system, 4 cameras, a digital recorder, and enough cable to cover the shop and the house. I spent the night installing them, running wire through the walls, and setting up the monitoring system in my home office. By Friday morning, I had complete coverage of both properties, with cloud backup and remote access through my phone. If Dean or anyone else wanted to escalate things, I'd have video evidence of exactly what happened. I was testing the camera angles when my phone rang, an unknown number with a local area code. Mr. Varron, this is Carol from Morrison and Associates. Mr. Morrison would like to speak with you. Could you come in this afternoon? Richard Morrison, Aven's boss, senior partner at the biggest law firm in town, city councilman, and the kind of guy who expected other people to jump when he called. What's this regarding? He didn't say. Just asked me to schedule a meeting. I'll be there at 3. Morrison and Associates occupied the top 2 floors of the newest building downtown, all glass and marble and expensive furniture designed to intimidate clients into paying higher fees. The receptionist led me to Morrison's corner office, where the man himself waited behind a desk the size of my workbench. Mr. Varron, thank you for coming. Morrison was 60-something, silver-haired, and dressed in a suit that probably cost more than I made in a month. He gestured to a chair across from his desk, but didn't offer to shake hands. I'll get straight to the point. Aven is a valued employee, and I'm concerned about the situation affecting her work. What situation is that? Your harassment of her and her friend. The threatening behavior, the stalking, the attempts to intimidate. Has she filed a formal complaint? Not yet, but she's considering it. I leaned back in the chair. Mr. Morrison, has Aven told you why our marriage ended? That's not relevant to... She was in a hotel room with another man, charging the expenses to our joint account, and lying about it. I have documentation if you'd like to see it. Morrison's expression didn't change, but I caught a flicker of something in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or just the realization that there was another side to this story. Personal matters aside, I can't have my employees distracted by domestic drama. If this continues, I'll have to take action. What kind of action? Whatever's necessary to protect my business and my people. I stood up. Mr. Morrison, I haven't contacted Aven at work, I haven't come to your office, and I haven't interfered with her job in any way. If she's distracted, it's because she got caught lying and doesn't like the consequences. Just stay away from her, Mr. Varron. That's all I'm asking. I'll stay away from her when she stays away from me. I left his office and took the elevator down to the parking garage, where I found Dean McCall waiting by my truck. He wasn't alone. 2 other guys from his gym flanked him, both young and muscled, and trying to look dangerous. Thought you might want to continue our conversation from yesterday, Dean said. Nothing to talk about. I think there is. See, you've been making Aven's life difficult, and that makes my life difficult. I don't like having a difficult life. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you started screwing married women. One of Dean's friends stepped forward. You need to watch your mouth, old man. Or what? You'll beat me up in a parking garage, in front of security cameras? That's your plan? Dean glanced up at the cameras I'd pointed out, then back at me. This doesn't end here. You're right. It doesn't. They left, but not before making sure I understood the threat. I sat in my truck for a few minutes, thinking about Tom Brennan's advice and Officer Green's warning. Everyone wanted me to be reasonable, to take the high road, to let Aven and Dean get away with their lies because fighting back was unseemly. But I'd spent 10 years being reasonable. I'd worked 60-hour weeks to pay for Aven's ambitions, fixed her car when it broke down, listened to her complaints about her job and her family and her dreams of something better. I'd been the perfect husband for a woman who'd been planning her exit strategy for months. Now they wanted me to disappear quietly so they could enjoy their new relationship without the inconvenience of consequences. That wasn't going to happen. I started the truck and drove home, where I spent the evening reviewing the security footage and planning my next move. Aven and Dean had made their choice. Now it was time for them to live with it. Saturday morning brought rain and a text message from an unknown number. Check your email. Last warning. The email contained a formal cease and desist letter signed by Richard Morrison himself. It accused me of stalking, harassment, and intimidation, demanded that I stop all contact with Aven and Dean, and threatened legal action if I continued my pattern of threatening behavior. I forwarded it to Tom Brennan with a note. They're getting desperate. He called me 20 minutes later. This is garbage, but you need to be extra careful now. They're building a paper trail for a restraining order. Based on what? I haven't done anything illegal. Doesn't matter. In domestic situations, judges err on the side of caution. If they can make you look unstable, you could be banned from your own neighborhood. So what do? Document everything, avoid contact, and let them make the next mistake. They're overplaying their hand. Tom was right, but patience had never been my strong suit. I spent the morning working on my truck, changing the oil and replacing the brake pads while the rain drummed against the garage roof. The mundane work helped clear my head and focus my thoughts. At noon, Vivian Henderson knocked on the garage door. Colby, dear, I hate to bother you, but I thought you should know. That red car was here again this morning. I looked up from the brake assembly. Dean's Mustang? Yes. He parked across the street and just sat there for about an hour, watching your house. I took photos from my kitchen window. She showed me her phone. The pictures were grainy but clear enough to identify Dean's car and license plate. In one shot, I could see him in the driver's seat, holding what looked like a camera or phone. What time was this? Around 10:30, right after you went into the garage. Did you see him do anything else? He got out once and walked around your truck, taking pictures. Then he left when the mail carrier came by. I thanked Vivian and uploaded her photos to my growing evidence file. Dean was escalating, moving from verbal threats to surveillance. He was also making mistakes, giving me documentation of his own stalking behavior. That afternoon, I drove to Hannigan's bar to watch the college football game and think through my options. The place was crowded with the usual Saturday crowd, guys from the construction crews, a few off-duty cops, some retirees who had nowhere else to go. Jerry was working the bar, moving efficiently between customers while keeping an eye on the game. During a commercial break, he brought me a fresh beer. Heard you had some visitors at Morrison's office yesterday. News travels fast. Small town. Morrison's been telling people you threatened him. I told him the truth. Some people consider that threatening. What's your next move? I was about to answer when the door opened and Dean walked in, flanked by the same two gym buddies from the parking garage. They scanned the room, spotted me at the bar, and walked over with the swagger of men who thought they owned the place. Well, look who's here, Dean said, loud enough for half the bar to hear, The stalker himself. Conversation stopped. The football game continued on the screens, but nobody was watching anymore. Jerry moved closer, his hand resting on something behind the bar. "Problem here?" Jerry asked. "No problem," Dean said. "Just want to have a friendly conversation with Colby about his behavior." "Then have it somewhere else." "Actually, I think this is the perfect place. Public setting, lots of witnesses. Colby likes witnesses, don't you, Colby?" I stayed seated, my hands wrapped around my beer bottle. "I like evidence. Speaking of which, thanks for the photo session this morning. My neighbor got some great shots of you stalking my house." Dean's confidence flickered. I was in a public street. Taking pictures of my property, that's called surveillance. Some people might call it harassment. "You're the one harassing people. Following Aven around, threatening her boss, trying to intimidate everyone who knows the truth about you." "What truth is that?" "That you're a controlling freak who can't handle losing his wife to a better man." The bar was completely quiet now. Even the bartender at the other end had stopped washing glasses. Dean was playing to the audience, trying to provoke me into a reaction that would support his harassment claims. "You're right about one thing," I said. "She did choose a better man. Question is, does he know about her other boyfriends?" Dean's face went red. "What the hell are you talking about?" "Ask her about the charges at Romano's last Tuesday, the ones from when she told me she was working late, or the hotel reservation from 2 weeks ago before you two officially started your relationship." "You're lying. Credit card records don't lie. Neither do security cameras." One of Dean's friends leaned forward. "You threatening us?" "I'm stating facts. Your boy here thinks he's special, but he's just the latest in a series. Aven's been planning her exit strategy for months, trying out different options." Dean grabbed my shoulder and spun me around on the bar stool. "You son of a—" He never finished the sentence. Jerry's hand came down on his wrist like a vice, and suddenly Dean was bent over the bar with his arm twisted behind his back. "Gentlemen," Jerry said calmly, "I think you've had enough excitement for one day. Time to leave." Dean's friends started forward, but stopped when they realized half the bar was now standing and watching. These weren't gym rats or office workers. They were construction guys, mechanics, and ex-military who didn't appreciate outsiders starting trouble in their neighborhood bar. "Let go of me," Dean gasped. "When you apologize to my customer and leave quietly." "I'm not apologizing to this psycho." Jerry twisted Dean's arm a little higher. "Wrong answer." Okay. Sorry." "Jesus." Jerry released him, and Dean straightened up, rubbing his wrist. His face was flushed with humiliation and rage, but he was smart enough to recognize that he was outnumbered. "This isn't over," he said. "Seems like I've heard that before," I replied. After they left, the bar gradually returned to normal. Jerry brought me another beer and leaned against the bar. "You handled that well." "I handled that stupidly. Now he's got witnesses to say I threatened him." "What witnesses? I didn't hear any threats. Did anyone else hear threats?" A chorus of "no" and "nope" came from around the bar. Jerry grinned. "Must have been your imagination." I stayed for another hour, watching the game and thinking about Dean's reaction to my comments about other boyfriends. I'd been fishing, throwing out bait to see what bit, but his response suggested I'd hit something real. That evening, I reviewed the credit card statements more carefully, looking for patterns I'd missed before. The charges at Romano's, the hotel reservations, the shopping trips, they told a story of someone preparing for a new life, but they also showed gaps, unexplained expenses that didn't fit with Aven's usual habits. There was a charge at an expensive restaurant across town on a night when Aven claimed she was working late. Another hotel charge from 6 weeks ago, different from the one where I'd confronted her. A payment to a photography studio that specialized in professional headshots. I cross-referenced the dates with Dean's social media posts and found something interesting. On the night of the expensive restaurant charge, Dean had posted photos from a CrossFit competition in the state capital 3 hours away. He couldn't have been with Aven. So who was? I opened Aven's social media accounts. We still shared passwords, another oversight on her part. Her recent posts were carefully curated, showing a happy life of work achievements and fitness goals. But the location tags told a different story. Check-ins at restaurants I'd never heard of. Photos at events I'd never been invited to. Comments from people whose names I didn't recognize, all supportive of her new journey and finding herself. One name appeared frequently: Marcus Webb, a lawyer from Morrison's firm. His comments were always professional but supportive, and he'd liked every one of her posts for the past 3 months. I looked up Marcus Webb's profile. Mid-40s, divorced, senior associate at Morrison & Associates. His recent posts showed an expensive lifestyle: wine tastings, art gallery openings, weekend trips to the coast. The same weekend trips that appeared in Aven's location history. I screenshot everything and added it to my evidence file. Aven wasn't just cheating with Dean, she was playing multiple angles, keeping her options open while she decided which man offered the best future. Dean thought he was winning her away from me, but he was just another pawn in her game. My phone buzzed with a text from Aven. "We need to talk. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., coffee shop on Main Street. Come alone." I typed back, "I'll be there." Time to find out what her next move was. The coffee shop on Main Street was neutral territory, public enough to prevent a scene, familiar enough that we both felt comfortable. I arrived 10 minutes early and chose a table in the back corner where we could talk without being overheard. Aven walked in exactly at 2 o'clock, looking polished and professional in her dark suit and carefully applied makeup. She'd lost weight since our separation, her face thinner and more angular. The stress was showing despite her efforts to hide it. She ordered a latte and sat across from me without ceremony. "This has to stop, Colby." What has to stop? The harassment, the stalking, the threats against Dean and Mr. Morrison. I haven't threatened anyone. You're following me around town, showing up wherever I go, intimidating the people in my life. I pulled out my phone and opened the photo gallery. Speaking of following people around, explain this. I showed her Vivian's photos of Dean parked outside our house, taking pictures of my truck. Aven glanced at the images and shrugged. "He was worried about you. After what happened at the bar yesterday." What happened at the bar was Dean starting a fight and getting embarrassed when he couldn't finish it. You threatened him. I told him the truth about your credit card charges. That's not a threat. It's information. Aven's composure slipped slightly. "What charges?" "Romano's restaurant last Tuesday. The hotel reservation from 6 weeks ago. The photography studio. Should I continue?" "Those are personal expenses. Paid for with our joint account. That makes them my business." She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. "What do you want, Colby? Money? The house? Just tell me what it'll take to end this." "I want the truth." "You have the truth. I made a mistake, I fell for someone else, and I want a divorce. That's the truth." "That's part of the truth. What about Marcus Webb?" The color drained from her face. For a moment, she looked genuinely shocked, like I'd slapped her. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Senior associate at Morrison's firm, divorced, expensive tastes, likes to travel. Ring any bells?" "Marcus is a colleague. A colleague who takes you to expensive restaurants and weekend getaways while your trainer boyfriend thinks he's your only side piece." Aven's hands trembled as she reached for her coffee cup. "You've been spying on me. I've been paying attention, something I should have done months ago. Marcus and I are just friends. Friends who share hotel rooms and romantic dinners? Does Dean know about your friendship with Marcus? Does Marcus know about Dean?" She was quiet for a long moment, staring into her latte like it held answers to questions she didn't want to ask. "It's complicated," she finally said. "I bet it is. Let me guess. You started with Marcus because he's got money and connections, but he's older and divorced and probably not looking for anything serious. So you kept him as your backup plan while you explored other options. That's not. Then Dean came along. Younger, better looking, more exciting, perfect for making Marcus jealous and keeping your options open. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You've been running a casting call for my replacement, trying out candidates while I paid the bills and kept your car running. Aven's professional mask was cracking, revealing something desperate underneath. I never meant for it to happen this way. Which part? The lying or the cheating, or the using our joint account to fund your auditions? I was unhappy, Colby. We both were. We haven't been right for years. So you decided to fix things by lying to me for months instead of just asking for a divorce. I was scared. Scared of being alone, scared of starting over, scared of making the wrong choice. So you made every choice and let me pay for it. She wiped her eyes with a napkin, smearing her mascara. What happens now? Now you tell Dean and Marcus the truth about each other. Let them decide if they want to keep competing for the privilege of dating a liar. I can't do that. Why not? Because I'll lose them both. Maybe. Or maybe one of them will decide he's okay with sharing. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. I stood up and dropped a $10 bill on the table. By the way, I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. Tom Brennan will send you the papers. Colby, wait. I turned back. What? I'm sorry, for all of it. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did hurt me, and you kept hurting me every day you lied about it. Can we at least try to do this civilly, for the sake of our friends and families? That depends on whether you keep trying to have me arrested for harassment. I'll talk to Dean, and Mr. Morrison. You do that. I left her sitting in the coffee shop and drove to Tom Brennan's office, where I spent the next 2 hours going over financial records and preparing divorce paperwork. Tom listened to my account of the meeting with Aven and the evidence I'd gathered about her multiple relationships. This is good for us, he said. Adultery, financial deception, using marital assets to fund extramarital relationships. She's not going to get much in the settlement. I don't care about the money. I just want it over. What about the house? I'll keep it. She never liked it anyway. That evening, I was installing a new alternator in Mrs. Patterson's Honda when Dean appeared in the shop doorway. He looked different, less confident, more uncertain. His usual swagger was gone. Can we talk? About what? About Aven and Marcus Webb. I set down my wrench. What about them? Is it true? What you said yesterday about other guys? What did Aven tell you? She said Marcus is just a friend from work, but I found some things in her car, receipts from restaurants, hotel key cards, stuff that doesn't add up. What kind of stuff? Dean pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket. A receipt from the Marriott downtown. Same weekend she told me she was visiting her sister. The sister she was supposedly visiting when I found you two at the Riverside Inn? Yeah, that sister. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Dean, how long have you been seeing Aven? About 3 months, since she started coming to my gym. And in those 3 months, how many times did she cancel plans at the last minute? How many times did she say she had to work late or visit family? He was quiet, thinking. A lot. I thought she was just busy. She was busy, just not with work or family. You think she's been playing us against each other? I think Aven's been playing everyone against everyone. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Dean crumpled the receipt in his fist. I don't know. I thought she was different. She is different. She's smart enough to keep multiple guys on the hook while she decides which one offers the best deal. What about Marcus? Does he know about me? Why don't you ask him? Dean left without another word, but I could see the anger building in his eyes. Not at me this time, at Aven and at himself for being fooled. An hour later, my phone rang. Marcus Webb's number, according to the caller ID. Mr. Varron, this is Marcus Webb from Morrison and Associates. I think we need to talk. About what? About Aven. and about some things I've recently learned. Such as? I'd rather discuss this in person. Can you meet me tonight? Where? Hannigan's bar. 9 o'clock. I'll be there. This was getting interesting. Aven's carefully constructed web of lies was unraveling, and her backup plans were comparing notes. By tomorrow, she'd be facing the consequences of trying to play too many angles at once. I finished the alternator job and cleaned up the shop, thinking about the conversation ahead. Marcus Webb was a lawyer, which meant he was smart and careful. If he wanted to meet, it meant he'd discovered something that changed his perspective on Aven. At 9 o'clock, I walked into Hannigan's and found Marcus sitting at a corner table, nursing a scotch and looking like a man who'd had a very bad day. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with the kind of polished appearance that came from expensive clothes and regular grooming. Mr. Varron, thank you for coming. I sat down and ordered a beer. What's on your mind, Marcus? Dean McCall paid me a visit this afternoon. Interesting conversation. I bet. He showed me some receipts, some photos, some text messages, made me realize I've been operating under some false assumptions. About Aven? About everything. Her marriage, her intentions, her honesty. Marcus finished his scotch and signaled for another. How long did you know? About you? I figured it out yesterday. About Dean? I caught them in a hotel room 3 days ago. 3 days. Jesus. He shook his head. I've been seeing her for 2 months. She told me you were separated, that the divorce was just a formality. We were never separated. The divorce papers get filed tomorrow. She said you were abusive, that she was afraid to leave because you might become violent. Did I seem violent when I met with your boss, or when Dean tried to start a fight at this bar yesterday? No, you seemed like a guy who'd been lied to. The bartender brought Marcus his second scotch. He drank half of it before speaking again. I feel like an idiot. Join the club. She had me fooled for 10 years. What's her game? What does she want? Security? Status? Someone to take care of her while she figures out what she really wants. And if she can't decide between options, she keeps them all? Until someone forces her to choose. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Dean wants to confront her together, all 3 of us. That's his choice. What about you? You want revenge? I thought about the question. A week ago, the answer would have been yes. I wanted to hurt her the way she'd hurt me, to make her pay for the lies and the humiliation and the wasted years. But sitting in Hannigan's bar, watching a successful lawyer realize he'd been played by a paralegal with commitment issues, I felt something different. Not revenge. Relief. I want her out of my life, I said. Everything else is just details. Marcus finished his scotch and stood up. Well, she's about to get her wish. By tomorrow, she'll be free to make all the bad choices she wants. Without using my credit card to pay for them. That's something, at least. He left, and I sat at the bar for another hour, watching the late crowd and thinking about the conversation ahead. Tomorrow, Aven would face the consequences of her choices. Dean and Marcus would probably walk away, leaving her with nothing but her paralegal salary and her storage unit full of expensive clothes. Part of me felt sorry for her, but mostly, I felt free. I was opening the shop Monday morning when Tom Brennan called with news. Divorce papers are filed, Aven's been served, and there's something else you should know. What's that? Richard Morrison called me this morning. Apparently there's been some drama at his office. What kind of drama? The kind that happens when a senior associate and a paralegal have a very public argument about honesty and professional ethics, in front of clients. I set down my coffee cup. Marcus and Aven? According to Morrison, Marcus confronted her about the lies she'd told him about your marriage. She denied everything, he produced evidence, and things escalated quickly. Evidence? Photos, receipts, text messages. Sounds like Dean shared his research. Where does that leave Aven? Unemployed, as of this morning. Morrison can't have that kind of personal drama affecting his business. I absorbed this information while watching the morning traffic pass on Route 9. Aven's carefully constructed life was collapsing faster than I'd expected. What about the harassment complaint? Withdrawn. Morrison's more worried about potential lawsuits from Marcus than he is about your supposed threats. Lawsuits? Harassment, hostile work environment, that kind of thing. Turns out Aven's been playing office politics as well as personal relationships. After Tom hung up, I spent the morning working on routine maintenance jobs and thinking about the speed of Aven's downfall. 3 days ago, she'd had a husband, a job, a house, and 2 boyfriends. Now she had none of those things. At lunch, Vivian Henderson appeared at the shop with a casserole dish and a satisfied expression. "Thought you might be hungry, dear, and I wanted to update you on the neighborhood news." "What news is that?" "Your wife came by the house this morning, with a moving truck." I looked up from the brake job I was working on. "A moving truck?" "One of those small rental ones. She and that trainer fellow were loading boxes and furniture. Looked like they were in quite a hurry." "Did they take much?" "Just her personal things as far as I could tell. The furniture you built, the appliances, the tools in the garage, all still there." "How did they get in?" Vivian's expression turned disapproving. "Broke a window in the back door. I called the police, but by the time Officer Green arrived, they were gone." Breaking and entering. Even in the middle of losing everything, Aven was still making bad choices. "Did you get photos?" "Of course, dear. And video from my security camera." She showed me her phone. The footage clearly showed Aven and Dean forcing entry through the back door, then carrying boxes and suitcases to the rental truck. The timestamp proved they'd been there for over an hour. "I'll need copies of this for my lawyer." "Already sent them to him. That nice Mr. Brennan called me this morning." After Vivian left, I drove home to assess the damage. The back door window was shattered, glass scattered across the kitchen floor. They'd been careful to take only Aven's belongings, but they'd also left the house unlocked and vulnerable. I called a glass repair service and spent the afternoon cleaning up and checking inventory. Nothing valuable was missing, but the violation felt personal. Even in defeat, Aven couldn't resist one final act of spite. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is all your fault." I typed back, "Who is this?" "You destroyed everything. I hope you're happy." "Aven. You turned everyone against me. Marcus, Dean, Mr. Morrison. You poisoned them all." I called the number, but it went straight to voicemail. Aven was spiraling, lashing out at everyone except herself for the consequences of her choices. That evening, Jerry called from the bar. "You need to get down here, now." "What's wrong?" "Your wife's here. She's drunk, she's loud, and she's telling everyone who'll listen that you ruined her life." I drove to Hannigan's and found Aven at the end of the bar, surrounded by empty glasses and the kind of sympathetic audience that bars attracted after 10 o'clock. She was crying, gesticulating wildly, and providing entertainment for the late crowd. "He stalked me," she was saying to anyone who'd listen. "Followed me around, threatened my friends, got me fired from my job." "That's enough," I said, approaching the bar. She turned toward me, her eyes unfocused and her makeup smeared. "Look who's here, the destroyer of lives." "You're drunk. Let me drive you somewhere safe." "Safe? Nowhere's safe from you. You made sure of that." Jerry appeared at my elbow. "She's been here for 2 hours. Started with wine, moved to whiskey. I was about to cut her off when she started the show." "Aven, come on, let's go." "Go where? You took my house, my job, my friends. Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not my problem anymore." She laughed, a bitter sound that made the other customers uncomfortable. "Not your problem? I'm your wife." "You're my soon-to-be ex-wife. Big difference." "Because of some stupid mistake? Because I wanted something better than fixing cars and living in a crappy house in a crappy town?" The bar had gone quiet. Everyone was watching our personal drama unfold, and I realized this was exactly what Aven wanted, a public stage for her victimhood. "You made your choices," I said quietly. "Now you get to live with them." "My choices? You mean choosing between a meathead trainer and a married lawyer who lied about his divorce? Those were my choices?" Even drunk, Aven was still revealing more than she intended. The bar crowd exchanged glances, processing this new information. "You had other choices. You could have asked for a divorce instead of lying about visiting your sister. You could have been honest instead of charging hotel rooms to our joint account." "I was protecting you. I was trying to spare your feelings." "By stealing from me?" "It wasn't stealing. It was our money. Money I earned while you were auditioning replacements for me." Aven tried to stand up and nearly fell off the bar stool. Jerry caught her arm and steadied her. "That's enough excitement for one night," he said. "Time to go home." "I don't have a home," she said. "He took it away from me." "You gave it away," I corrected, "along with everything else." I left her at the bar and drove home, where I spent the rest of the evening installing a new security system and changing the alarm codes. Tomorrow, the glass repair service would fix the window and install better locks. Aven's key-breaking days were over. At midnight, my phone rang. Dean's number. "She's at my place," he said without preamble. "Drunk, crying, talking about getting back together." "That's your problem now. I don't want her here. We're done." "Then tell her to leave." "She says she has nowhere to go, says you took everything." "I took what was mine. She's welcome to what's hers." "Which is what?" "Her car, her clothes, and whatever money she saved from her paralegal salary." Dean was quiet for a moment. "That's not much." "No, it's not." "What am I supposed to do with her?" "Whatever you want. But don't call me about it." I hung up and turned off the phone. Aven's drama was no longer my responsibility. She'd made her choices, and now she could live with the consequences. The next morning brought sunshine and a sense of closure I hadn't felt in months. The house was quiet, the shop was busy, and my lawyer was handling the divorce paperwork. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Vivian Henderson appeared at the shop around noon with another casserole and more neighborhood news. "That trainer fellow was at your house again this morning. Dropped off some boxes and left quickly." "More of Aven's things?" "Looked like it. He seemed upset about something." I drove home and found 3 cardboard boxes on the front porch. Inside were the last of Aven's belongings: photo albums, jewelry, books, and personal documents. At the bottom of the last box was a handwritten note. "Colby, I'm sorry for everything. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I needed to say it. I'm leaving town, starting over somewhere else. I hope you can forgive me someday. Aven." I read the note twice,